What's up, guys? Welcome to our visual only pre-show exclusively on YouTube. PCP. Popcorn Chats pre-show.
Oh,
It's like a drug.
Yeah. Oh, we stand.
But not welcome back, guys. Yesterday I got COVID tested for the last time because it was the end of my quarantine, and after being exposed to my mom, and I have had symptoms for as long as my mom has had symptoms, so I had to get tested like right at the end. So I waited in line yesterday for 2.5 hours. When I got up there, I was about to be like, who do I fucking Venmo request? Because my tank is gone. She's drained. And I'm like, somebody literally passed away in this line already from COVID waiting. Whoever is kidding themselves and saying we have the shit under control is kidding themselves. It was chaos.
We're so screwed.
Yeah. Let's enjoy like the last couple of days before the election. That's why I hope I'm negative so we can have our spooky day.
Yeah, before the whole country goes up in fire, basically. I am not looking forward to what the world looks, or what our country looks like next week.
Right.
Because either way, it's going to be an absolute shit show.
Genuinely.
Yikes.
I want to watch the Paris Hilton documentary, and I want to watch the Blackpink documentary that's on Netflix.
I was not aware that either of those were a thing.
There's also apparently a documentary called like Capturing the Light or something, and it's about this lady who like talks to aliens or something on Amazon Prime, and I want to watch it.
That sounds awesome. I want to hear about a lady talking to aliens.
And it was like back in the 70s or something.
Alien, there's no question. They're there.
I swear to God, I saw two yesterday flying right by each other. And Aaron was like, those are planes. And I'm like, what planes do you know that fly that close to each other? And they were like disc shaped, like in the air.
My mom also thought that she saw, like, she doesn't think she's like, I don't know what I saw, but she thought she saw something one morning, like last year, out in our field by our house, like hovering above it when she took Nala out one morning. She's like, it was not a plane. And she still is like dead set that she saw something. She's like, I don't know what it was, but I just know that I saw something. I'm like, well, let's keep that on the down low because then you'll be hunted by the government.
Yeah, what the hell? That's scary. I also heard that, like, obviously our planet is orbiting around the sun and like being pulled by the sun, and then our solar system is like being pulled by, like, we're in the Milky Way or whatever, and we're being like pulled in by what they think is a supermassive black hole. So like our sun, and like that's what we're orbiting around. And then there's like all these other solar systems also orbiting around another supermassive black hole and coming together slowly, and it's taking the form of a human being, like the shape.
Could we possibly get sucked into a black hole?
I don't think so. I think it's more like the shape it's taking is a human shape. So it's like, what does that mean? But also I was like, remember when I told you that I think my new belief is that I'm the universe experiencing itself?
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that kind of affirmed that.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like so hard to wrap your brain around, like the scale of the universe.
Yeah. And it's also just like, it's too scary to think about, or it's too hard to think about. So it's just like, I'm just gonna do like through my life and go to.
But like, really, what does anything matter? What does anything that we do matter in the grand scheme of things? Like, literally nothing. You wake up and you go to work to pay for things just to survive until you die. And then you pass the same things on to future generations, and they just keep doing the same old shit. Mm-hmm. And like Katie, how you said that we think homeowning is a scam.
I was gonna say
5 days a week to pay for a house, and then you spend the weekend upkeeping that house and putting more money into that house. It's just like, life is a fucking scam. I'm sick of it. I want out of this subscription.
That's what I'm learning more and more. Like, everything, if you play by the rules, life is a scam. But if you're like, fuck it, I don't care, then it's not.
And I had this scary moment where I saw, not the scary moment, more of like a what the really when I saw my salary. So I guess I didn't really know. So like I recently got a new job and I got a promotion, and I knew that my pay increased like per hour, but I didn't really, I guess, bother to do the math on what that would be on a yearly scale. And I was just filling out my benefits, and I saw how much money now I will make in a year in this job, and I was like, uh, what? Because like I think I'm looking at that number and it seems like super high for me, but then I'm
Mhm.
like, but how does anyone have, I'm fine because it's just me on my own, and right now I don't have rent. So it's like, granted, even once I add in rent, okay, fine. But I'm like, how does anyone afford another person in their life? Like, because
Yeah.
to me, I'm like, that number seemed huge, and I was like, holy shit. So then when I'm job hunting, like, I want to look for something of that same number. But then I was just thinking, I'm like, what if I ever have to add like another human being onto that ticket? Like, that's not that much money. But which is sad because it is a lot of money, but it, in the grand scheme of things, like, it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
I hate it here. I
Dude.
just do.
Same. Catch me never owning a home unless I'm like really rich and it makes sense. But
Yeah.
like Jack and I have talked about just renting in different cities that we want to live, especially with how we're discovering as a society, like, oh, you don't have to be in an office to do that job. Like, why the hell have we always made people? I think a lot of things are going to move remote now.
Yeah.
So, like, ideally, it would be cool if we both were able to work remotely and then just like rent in different cities that we want to
Yeah.
live in.
And tag me along with you.
Yeah, please.
I'm like dead serious about that I'm like gonna follow you guys because I don't want to be
Oh,
stuck
for sure
here by
do.
myself.
I love that for us. I love that idea. Oh my God, I saw this TikTok of a girl dressed up like Jamie Lee Curtis in Freaky Friday for Halloween.
That's an icon. Was it her dress?
Yeah, it was
Like
like
that.
the one like when she went to get her ear pierced and
Yeah,
everything.
that's iconic. I love that.
I'm excited for Saturday. I've been making Halloween decorations.
I'm excited to
I kind of want to do those apple cider mimosas that everybody's been doing.
mimosas. That'd be good. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Oh my
Be
God.
fun and fancy.
Every evening, it feels like I smoked an entire pack of cigarettes throughout the day.
Why?
Because like my throat and chest
Ugh.
hurt. Let's start the episode, ladies and gents and other friends.
Recording in 3, 2, 1.
Buckle up.
Because it's gonna be a long ride.
It's gonna be a wild ride.
No one cares, but we're gonna tell you anyways.
This is Popcorn Chats.
It's your turn to intro this week too.
Cute. All right. What's up, girlies? Welcome back to Popcorn Chats. I'm Katie.
And I'm Michae.
And this week we're doing another countdown best. Wait, what do we call this? Best
Top 10.
Oh, okay. We are doing another episode of our top 10 favorite things, and this time we're focusing on TV show scenes. So we did our top 10 movie scenes. You can go back and listen to that episode. And now we're talking about our favorite scenes from our favorite shows. Have you been watching a lot of TV during the pandemic or not?
No.
I feel like a lot of people are, but I also have not, I feel like, watched a lot.
I feel like I just haven't watched a lot in general. I've been reading more. Like at night, I'm reading. I'm not really watching anything, mostly because I haven't really been super invested in anything.
Yeah.
I haven't found a show that I like am dying to get back to all the time. So, I mean, I watch Pretty Little Liars when I'm like getting ready. Like I've been rewatching that.
Yeah.
But I don't like sit down at night and like watch 3 or 4 episodes or anything.
I watched Bly House. I recently finished that. I thought it was horrible. I thought it was horribly written. So all the hype that it's getting, don't understand that. Don't come for me. And I'm watching Schitt's Creek. I'm procrastinating watching the last couple episodes because I love that show so much and I don't want it to end. So
I've been watching Dancing with the Stars is back on now, and The Bachelorette, but I always watch those like the day after. So I have been watching watching those, but like not binging like I used to.
I heard that Claire is so problematic.
Which I don't. So granted, I have not finished last night's episode yet. So I only saw like the first 10 minutes of the episode, and I'm like, why does everyone hate Claire? So I'm like waiting for that turn, because right now I don't really get it, like why people don't like her.
I've been seeing TikToks and stuff, but I don't know. You'll have to update us next week because I know nothing about her or like anything. But
yeah, I've liked her so far. So
how are you? Same old fucking same.
Same old fucking same.
Not a lot of time has passed since we last recorded, to be fair.
No, and I mean, like, literally, what have I done, people? I don't go anywhere because I'm being cautious, because our world is on fire and everyone is... There's still a pandemic, and our governor was like, everyone needs to, like, follow social distancing and stay inside, and I'm like... I've been doing that since March.
Right. Like when people are like, all right, well, it's time to rest in place. It's like, well, what has everybody else been doing? Because that's literally all I've been doing this entire time.
And I was in the grocery store tonight, and there was a lady not wearing a mask, and I was like,
what the hell?
What are you trying to prove to people? Like, I'm so sick. I have, like, no faith in humanity. I have, like, no hope for my future. I have, like, no prospects. I'm just gonna live in my parents' basement for literally the rest of my life and work an office job for the rest of my life, and everyone else is gonna move on around me, and I'm just gonna still fucking be...
That's literally not true.
Doing good. How are you doing, Katie?
I'm fine. I'm a little sick. Still don't know if it's COVID or not. In that long line, I was like, there should be a separate line for people who have been... I want to be like, can I skip all these people because I've been doing everything I was supposed to do? So Trump supporters should be in one line. But anyways, yeah, I'm fine. Literally nothing has changed. Nothing has happened since we last chit-chatted. I pretty much do the exact same thing every day. So these catch-ups might be cut. This segment might be cut because we don't have anything to update you guys on ever.
No, we just don't do anything.
No.
Or we do, but it's the same thing every single week.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's my birthday coming up soon. Oh, Katie, the bubbles, they don't have any reservations available for my birthday, so we can't do the bubbles. So
how dare they? Well, we're gonna do that at some point. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I think it looks super cute. And they have little heaters in them too, so we can even do it throughout the winter.
Yeah, guys, if you're listening to this episode on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or streaming it audio only, we do a visual only pre-show on our YouTube channel. So go and check that out. We're Popcorn Chats on YouTube, and you could be watching this episode if you prefer that medium. We also post new videos every Friday. So this past Friday, we uploaded a video about our after movie viewing experience. We had an episode about After We Collided last week. So lots of After We Collided content, but we're going to be filming our Halloween get-together. It's just me and Michaela. That's our video for this Friday. So
we're going to have a Euphoria Halloween. Actually, speaking of that, I need to get glitter glue. Unless if I still have some from last year. But
I was going to say.
Expiration date. Should we jump in?
Yeah, let's jump in. So I think I remember last time when we did top 10 movie scenes, I asked, is there any commonalities in these scenes? Like, that's just something that interests me. Are you noticing anything that like contributes to you really loving a scene?
Yes. Once again, I just like to be emotionally destroyed. So I like things that hit me like square in the chest. I like something emotional. Okay, it's gonna sound weird. I like gratification in a scene of like something that you've been like building towards over like a season, or like a plot point that has been like building up and it like boils over finally. I like that a lot. Once again, I don't really have too many like comedy scenes. Like those just don't really stick out to me as much. It really is like the powerful like power moves or big monologues or like breakdowns and fights. That's kind of what I think a lot of these have in common. Or like plot twist moments. I do have a couple that it was like my mind was blown.
Cool.
So that's kind of mine. What about you?
I had the same note as you, like payoff, something that I think that's a unique aspect in television where you could be developing something for like 10 episodes or 10 seasons, and when that payoff happens, it's like, holy shit, there's nothing more gratifying to me. Music is a big contributing factor for me. I think that evokes such strong emotion. So like the perfect song choice really goes a long way for me, and I think I talked about that in the movie scenes episode too. And yeah, often it's not really about what's being said and about the dialogue. Another thing I appreciate about television is that you get to a point where you just know the characters so well, and like you've been along on this journey with them, that like nothing needs to be explained, nothing needs to be said. Sometimes just like a look or like that realization moment is so strong and powerful because we just know, and it's that like intimate relationship that the audience has with these characters, that like those moments in television are so wonderful to me, and I can only hope to like evoke that type of thing with my own writing, because I want to write for television someday, and like that's why I want to write for television, is because of those moments. Just like the indescribable arrival of the character, like they ain't nothing better.
Katie, I know it's not necessarily your style, but I think like if you could adapt anything, I would trust you with the Throne of Glass book series that I finished up, that like 8-book series that I've been like obsessed with for the past 2 months. Oh my god, that needs to be made into a TV show. Hulu currently has the rights, but it's been shelved for years, so like
That's
it's probably just
annoying.
gonna run out until their time's up and it goes back to the publisher. But my friend and I were talking about that today, that we're like, it needs to be on HBO, because it could be like Game of Thrones level, like battle sequences and like character development, and I think you should do that, because that book series, like while it's fantasy, it's like so character driven, and
Yeah.
like the journey that all of these characters go on, that I think you would do a really good job with that, and I would trust you with it,
Aw,
that you wouldn't
thank
screw it up. And
I
also because
appreciate
then
that.
I'd be like, don't you dare screw anyone up,
Yeah.
don't you kill them, don't you do anything, don't you make them go crazy by the end.
Don't even talk about that. Oh, that is still a fresh wound more than a year later for me after watching that.
So I did put these in kind of a bit of an order. However, like I feel like pretty much only my top like 3 are really set in order. The rest of them are kind of all evenly dispersed. So this is like the first one up, and it is from Big Little Lies season 2. When
I forgot about that show completely, and I'm so fucking pissed.
I like saw it on my desk because I was making my notes, because you know how like I have all those little posters on it, and I was like, oh yes. And it's when Bonnie talks to her mom when she's in the coma, and like reads her letter that she basically wrote to her mother, but her mother can't really hear it. It's more for like Bonnie to get it out. And now I was not the biggest fan of the storyline with Bonnie's mother in the second season. I felt like it was a waste of time. It totally took away from Madeline and Jane's character time to introduce Bonnie's mother, when I just did not care about Bonnie's mother, and I still don't. The thing that I love about this is the background that we get on Bonnie in this moment, and this is purely for her and Zoe Kravitz's acting. It really rounded out Bonnie really well. We got like bits and pieces of her in the book of having like a bit of a traumatic childhood, but not really a lot, because she's really not that big of a player in the book. Seeing this fleshed out on screen was just awesome for her character. Her admission about her mother's abuse and her father's ignorance of that during her childhood, and how that has affected her through her teen years to who she is now, is so heartbreaking and powerful and just raw. And I think the show has so many great wow moments, and I mean this is just one of them, but I think it is Zoe Kravitz's best moment throughout the whole series. Her emotions are just like so visceral, and it's just such a standout scene. If you know the scene, you know how powerful it is, and just really rounds out her character really well.
I loved that character, and I wish that like the mom situation wasn't pretty much all we got of Bonnie in season 2. I am so pissed that I forgot about Big Little Lies. I knew I was gonna forget like a big show.
Yeah, well, if you remember anything, throw them in your honorable mentions.
I will. Right off the bat, I mean,
I feel like I'm missing things too, though.
Literally,
so
yeah.
I'll be
Because
interested
there's
to hear
so many
yours.
shows. We're both like, it's too hard. Like, you guys wanted to do a podcast about movies and TV shows, you fucking idiots.
It is hard to, like, remember everything that, like, when you're sitting down and trying to remember things, it is tricky. Keep track of those things. Like, even now, I've just realized, oh no, I did include that one. I thought that I had, like, made a note somewhere else on my computer. I didn't include I did, but that was my number 10.
Yay. I only have one Glee one on here, people. Could have had more, but we're only doing one and we're getting it right out of the way, right off the bat, so don't
No one's
come for
telling
me.
you not to include Glee.
I just feel self-conscious about it. I feel like everybody hates it. This is a small Glee moment, kind of underrated Glee moment, but it gives me chills every motherfucking time. It's season 3, episode 21, Nationals episode. There's so many good moments from this episode. Basically, it's the Nationals rehearsal, so all the characters are like showcased and they all want to win the competition so bad, and it manifests in each of them differently, and they're kind of like struggling and messing up the choreography, and they're all like fighting and not on the same page. And Santana obviously like has a big blow up, and she's like, oh, Mercedes has the stomach flu. So then Santana's like, I don't want to hear any of this "we can't do it without her" bullshit. If you're not giving 110%, I will cut you. Like, it's just so funny. Obviously, I just butchered that. I didn't quote her word for word, but Naya Rivera is the only person who can do it. Rest in peace, my lady. I love you. All of them just want to win so bad, and it's like this full circle moment. They've come so far as a Glee club. The jocks want to win just as bad as like the nerdy Glee club original kids. It's just a beautiful moment, and they're kind of still the underdogs, even though they've like developed. They're still struggling to learn the choreography like right before, but they have the will, and then they end up winning. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, this whole episode.
Yeah.
But
it is what it is.
It's a very short scene, and it's kind of like understated when compared to the rest of the episode. But I love it.
Yay. My number 9 is from Scandal at the end of season 2. I feel like with pretty much any of these TV shows, so I have a couple from Game of Thrones, a couple from Euphoria, a couple from Grey's, one from Scandal, but honestly any of those shows could be like their own top 10 lists. Like, there's so many moments.
Same.
So it's hard to narrow down. However, this Scandal speech is my favorite monologue that Olivia Pope has ever delivered. It is at the end of season 2, and it's her "you want me, earn me" speech, and like,
Ooh.
Women around the world were cheering with her in this moment. I swear they were. This is one of Olivia delivers so many amazing like speeches and monologues on the show, but this one is just like her at her like fucking best.
Yeah.
This is such a built up moment after 2 whole seasons of back and forth between Olivia and Fitz. Fitz is the president, if you don't know, so obviously he's married and she is his quote unquote mistress, even though he often is like, do not refer to yourself as that, like you are more than that. And she doesn't like the mistress label because they're just meant to be. They were meant to be. Okay, I am such like an Olivia and Fitz shipper. Like I said, it's just so built up because they're constantly back and forth for 2 whole seasons, and then finally at the end when like Olivia is just like had it and Fitz is like ready to pick her, but she's like, you can't do that. Your wife is literally gonna implode your political career. And like and she's just tired of Fitz always being like, no, we're gonna be together. Oh, I have a duty. And then like that's all he does. If you've seen the show, you just know it. And it's so cathartic to watch her let out her anger and frustration on him, and she's like, I am not a toy that you can pick up when you are bored and horny. And I'm just like, oh
my
like,
god,
Katie, you have to look up this scene.
I'm going to
love it.
That sounds awesome.
It's so good. It just shows Olivia's strength as a woman and like in her own empowerment and like taking charge of that, but it also shows her vulnerability of being hurt by the same man repeatedly and finally having enough. Like, I think any woman watching that can like relate to always getting their hopes up and then always being let down by the same person over and over again. And I think everyone wants that moment to just like tell him off, and she did. It's just it's so good. And again, it's like that gratification of watching their relationship back and forth for so long, and her to just finally have her moment of being like, if you want me, you are going to earn me. And it's just like, I love it. I love that show so much. As I love Grey's, like Scandal is just it's so good. I would put Scandal above Grey's because Grey's has like bad seasons where Scandal didn't have a bad season at all.
Did they have a gratifying ending of Scandal?
It did, yes. I will say like it was a little more like up in the air, is at least from what I can remember of Olivia and Fitz's. I was rewatching it and then Netflix took it off and I was like only in the 3rd season again.
How dare!
So I think it might be on Hulu maybe. So I want to find it and finish rewatching it. But I'm pretty sure that it was like a little more of a gray area if Olivia and Fitz were together. I think like it was a little more up to interpretation. I remember like everything else kind of getting wrapped up nicely though.
Yeah, I feel like with Grey's Anatomy, like there's no way to wrap it up good now.
No.
Okay, my number 9 is Game of Thrones, and it's when Daenerys frees the Unsullied. Episode or season 3, episode 4, Missandei. Just Missandei, period. I went into the show blind. I had a couple things spoiled for me, but the majority of things I went in blind, which is good. And I wanted her to go with Daenerys so badly, and when she did, it was like, fuck yes. And then just that's the beginning of Missandei's character development, which is like impeccable. And I just love the little tidbit of the Master not knowing that Daenerys speaks Valyrian, and then she like roast him because like literally
and figuratively
insulted her, and how she trades the dragon for the army and then ends up getting both back, and like he's talking shit about her and like saying that it's a bad deal, but then like she ends up getting both and the army supports her and loves her. It's a big turning point for the character of Daenerys. It's like the first time that it's like a big success, really like gets her foot in the door of actually having a chance to rule and be on the throne. And it's kind of the first time that like she starts having a big group of people love her and admire her and see her for how awesome she is. And that's just such an awesome feeling as a viewer. Again, like the payoff, because you've seen her in these smaller moments with a smaller crowd admiring her, but now to see this big group of people love her as much as you do, it's like, fuck yeah, Daenerys. I love you, Daenerys, and I believe that you should be alive to this day. But
I'll just save I will just say I agree with everything that you said, and I'll save my additional thoughts for later. But I knew we would have that same scene, like
it's
without a doubt. Because we both love Dany and we both love that show. And I'm like, there's no way that we're not both putting that on our list. So.
Right. And there's so many Daenerys moments where it's just like, yes, like talk about a character who gets so much payoff in that show. And I think that show in general is like the payoff expert in television.
Like we could easily do a top 10 Game of Thrones moments and a top 10 Game of Thrones episode.
Yeah.
Like there are just so many. That show is
for sure. We could have an entire podcast about Game of Thrones, which I know there are podcasts out there that exclusively talk about Game of Thrones. And I don't think they will ever run out of content.
No.
Like, ever.
Especially because George R.R. Martin is still writing the books.
Right. And there will definitely be, like, some sort of revival or spinoff or something.
My number 8 is from Lost, and it is when Charlie writes on his hand that it's not Penny's boat. If you don't know the show, you're gonna be like, that sounds so stupid. But, okay, people, I haven't watched Lost in like 4 years, so my details are a little hazy on this, so don't come at me if I'm not completely accurate in the moment of this, except like I can picture the scene perfectly. So I'm pretty sure it is at the end of season 3, I want to say. And this moment was such a pivotal moment in the show, not only because Charlie dies, and Charlie was a beloved character on Lost, and while characters were like killed off on that show, he was one of the first people who were like one of the original like really beloved characters on that cast to be killed off, like one of the first on the beach in that original crash that people like really liked and cared about. And he was a really popular character, so to have him killed off, that was like really pivotal in the show. And also there was like such hope for them all in this moment. They thought that it was Penny's boat that was coming out to save them, or like that was going to be on their way, and that she was going to like help these people stranded on this island out. Little did they know that that was not Penny's boat. And Charlie uses his like final moment to let everyone know, like be like, that is not her boat, like do not trust that, and that's not what you think it is, when it just only added more questions to the series and squashed the hope that everyone had. So it was just like, it was just so true to the series to do something like that. Yeah, the show is just so twisty and turny, and that scene is just a great example of it. So between the plot twist with that and his death, and like I can just picture him like he drowns. I should say, I guess, like, that doesn't make any sense of how he died. I don't really know how to explain it, but they, like,
yeah,
in
I'm
order
like,
to,
trying
like,
to picture it.
in order to, like, let this boat off or something, this, like, underground place that's in, like, water starts filling up with water. And in
Oh.
order to, like, save everyone else, he, like, locks the room with himself, and it can only be locked from the inside. So he does that so that way it doesn't, like, flood the rest of the area. And then in his, like, last moments, he's like, I can't get a message out through this door, and there's, like, a little window on it. And so then he writes on his hand, not Penny's boat, and, like, holds it up to the window. So then the people on the other side see it, and then he drowns in that room and dies.
Aww.
So it's really sad. Again, I'm kind of hazy on the details because I haven't watched this show. But yeah, I don't know. That was a horrible explanation. If you know
it
the
wasn't.
show Lost. Okay, good. I thought it did
I
make
can
more
now
sense.
vividly picture it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Very
so
emotional.
if you've watched Lost, any Lost fan knows what scene I'm talking about, and it's such a turning point in the series.
My number 8 is from Schitt's Creek. It's the season 2 finale, the barn dance scene. So Michaela, unfortunately, has not watched Schitt's Creek yet, but
my parents have. I hear it from the basement.
I think you would like it. But so Schitt's Creek is about like a really rich, entitled, privileged family who like loses all their money and then has to move to this town because they like the last thing that they own is this crappy town that they have to go and live in. At the end of season 2, there's been a fair amount of character development while maintaining the lovable like shittiness of these people, for lack of a better term. Like they're entitled, they're horrible people to start out the series, and it's like, why am I watching these people? Like I don't like them at all, but by the end of season 2 you love them. So I just commend Daniel Levy on his writing. Like the fact that he was able to make me fall in love with these white privileged ass people. Like, I don't know anybody else who could ever do that. So basically, they all tell each other in a rather uncomfortable way that they love each other, which they've like never said in the show, and that like you can kind of assume that they're just not like an affectionate family because of their wealth and just like they don't spend a whole lot of time together. So yeah, it shows that even though they are like broke in this town, it's a good thing that they're there because they're coming together and they're softening and becoming better people slowly but surely. Again, just Daniel Levy does such a good job of having them grow and develop and become more lovable, but still maintaining that original, like, entitled, quirky part of these characters. And it doesn't come off as unbelievable or like this drastic change. It's not just like, we love you. It's very, Moira, the mom, is like beating around the bush, and it's like, we have great affection for you too. And this song, Precious Love, is so cute, and they all just start dancing together. And like the way I'm describing it, it sounds quirky, but on screen it reads so well.
Cute.
Yeah.
I know my parents loved that show, and they always said, they're like, you should watch this. But again, like, I don't know, I have a hard time getting into comedies, but maybe I should give it like a shot.
Daniel Levy says that it's not a comedy, it's a drama with comedic moments.
Oh, I like that description.
He doesn't describe it as a comedy. Yeah. Number 7.
Number 7 is my only comedy scene on this list, which I doubt many people are going to have seen, but it is from Everybody Loves Raymond, which is my all-time favorite TV show. And it's this one episode it's in the yellow season. That's season 6. I'm not even, season 6, disc 4, and I want to say it's like episode 18? 17?
That's so fucking crazy. Can we just talk about that for a second? Like, before streaming services, Michaela had seasons on DVDs.
I still have seasons on DVDs.
You got me into that because I did that with Glee then.
I have like my favorite shows. I have Game of Thrones. I had Pretty Little Liars, so I just like finished that collection. Everybody Loves Raymond. Friends, I found 8 of those seasons at Goodwill for like $5 a piece, so I bought those. And I have a couple seasons of Girls. Anyways, yes, I can. If you give me like an episode of Raymond, I can tell you like what season it's from and probably what disc and episode number it is. It's an unhealthy problem, but it's fine. Anyways, this episode is when Robert, Ray, and Frank mess up Robert and Amy's wedding invitations, and it's this scene when Amy thinks that Robert needs to be involved in like the wedding planning experience, but Ray and Frank are like, she doesn't want you to actually help, so we'll make these purposely bad so that way she'll do it. So then you don't have to do any of the work. So they make this horrible wedding invitation and it accidentally gets sent out to their whole guest list. Yikes. So this
episode in this moment is just so freaking funny. The moment when Deborah gets this invitation in the mail and she sees it and she's like, what
Deborah,
the hell
so
is
funny.
this? What is this invitation? And then Ray gets home and she's like, oh, Ray, check out the wedding invitation. And then he sees it and realizes that all of their like really bad things they put on it got sent out. So then she's like, oh, let me see that, and like trying to play him. And so he like gets it wet in the sink and he's like, oh, or he dumps water on it and he's like, oh no, oh, let me dry it, and takes over to their stove and then lights it on fire. And then he like puts it down the garbage disposal. And like, so that happens in one scene in their kitchen, but then at the same time, Amy comes in and has the invitation. She's like, Hank, in Pat, they're not hillbillies, Robert. Like, I don't know how else to describe this except that it's just like hilarious. Then like everyone gets involved, like Frank, Marie, Amy, Robert, Ray, and Deborah. So you got like the core six of the show all in this scene. They all find out that the men like purposely messed up this invitation, which then Deborah is like, Ray, did you do this to our wedding? And then she realizes that he did that during their wedding and then throughout their whole marriage. And she's like, you fake husband, you faker.
Oh my god. Ray is such a bad husband. Deborah should have left him.
Oh, it's so genuinely funny, and I just love that show so much. Okay, sorry, that was enough of Everybody Loves Raymond.
What a good show, though. Okay, my number 7 is from Euphoria. And again, it's kind of like a small scene, season 1, episode 4. And it's the turning scene, not the turning hallway scene, but the scene where Rue and Jules have their first kiss. I just like the turning camera motion. It's very in sync with the crazy camera motions of the entire show and the cinematography. And it's the perfect way to portray this relationship. And it literally like wraps Rue and Jules together. It's hard to explain, but I like how it shows the progression of their relationship and showing them side by side and like in the same position and leading up to them kissing. And it like kind of is like, this is why they're kissing. Like these moments leading up to the kiss, like they love each other. Or Rue really loves Jules and Jules is like vulnerable and sad. And I think those moments just show how Rue has always really loved Jules. Jules just likes Rue as a good friend, I think, but that's just me. It's kind of, again, like a turning point in the show. Like, we know it's not great. It's not this super satisfying kiss that happens in a lot of shows when you're like waiting for people to get together. Obviously, I want Rue and Jules to be together and I'm like waiting for them to be together. Mm-hmm. But it's not like this super satisfying, like finally they're going to be together kiss, because it's like, you know that this relationship isn't going to be super healthy. And like, you know that Jules isn't necessarily at the same place that Rue is in. So it's just kind of like different in that way from a lot of on-screen TV kisses. But it's mainly the camera movement and just the lack of dialogue and more, again, just like showing us and we're there in the moment so we feel it. Typically those payoff moments happen later in a series or later in a season, but the fact that Euphoria was able to pull it off in the 4th episode just speaks to how good the show is, I think.
That show is literally perfection to me. Like, that is one thing that, however we, like, shit on things when we want to, like, I like, have trouble finding things about that show that I, like, can nitpick. Or then I'm, like, purposely looking for things to not like. I don't know. I love that show. And you're right, that is such a cool scene. Euphoria does a good balance of dialogue when you need it, but just visuals to like offset that. Like they don't saturate it with voiceovers when they don't need to.
Yeah, and I just think that's more true to life. Like we're not always talking out and explaining how we feel or like what we're thinking. Mm-hmm. And that's what's so annoying. Not the one thing that's annoying with After, but like super annoying about it. Just one of the many things is like they're constantly being like, souls are two of the same, or whatever the fuck he says. Like whatever
her
souls
are
made
of, hers and mine are the same.
It's like, who the fuck says that? Okay, guys, gonna do a bit of a trigger warning. And if you're like sensitive to rape or sexual assault or like abuse of any kind, just like skip ahead maybe like 2 or 3 minutes.
My number 6 is one of my Grey's Anatomy moments, and it is one, I feel like this one kind of has a bit of a recency bias because I did just recently watch this episode. It is in season 14 or 15. I can't remember which season I'm on anymore. But it is when a patient comes in that has been sexually assaulted, and Joe is the doctor to like first see her, and it's her, Teddy, and one of the other doctors like just kind of talking this woman through her trauma, and that is all emotional. But then the woman needs like life-saving surgery. Like her insides are like bleeding. She's like bleeding out. Have you watched this? Do you know what episode I'm talking about? So this woman is like, I don't know, like a grown, I mean, I say like a grown woman. She's older than us. She's like a middle-aged woman, probably has a husband at home, and they got in a fight, and she went out to a bar just to have like one drink, and then a guy raped her. She doesn't want her husband to know because she's like, who's he gonna, like, we got in a fight over laundry, and I just wanted to go to the bar and have a drink and let off some steam before going back home. And then she gets like absolutely like physically beaten up, assaulted, and then she goes into the doctor. So then they don't talk her into a rape kit, but they kind of do. Like they're like, you can save it, and she's like, what? So it can sit in the back of a police station, and it's just so timely. Anyway, so she needs to get wheeled into surgery, but she's like scared. She doesn't want them to leave her at all, and she's like, every man that she sees, she's like, I see this guy. Like that's all she can see. So Joe, Teddy, and DeLuca all like block off the wing that she needs to get down to the operating room. So DeLuca guards the doors so that way no men can pass through, but they call like any female nurses, doctors, technicians, like anyone through to line the hallways to like show the support for this woman going down to surgery. And
I'm gonna cry just thinking about this. Oh my
Katie,
god.
it is so
I love
powerful.
women. Like, we're just the best.
This episode, I couldn't stop crying the whole episode. And then also when we're seeing this, we're also finding out that Joe is finding out that she is a product of rape as well. Like her mother was raped on a date by like her TA in college,
Shonda.
and that's
Only
why her mother
Shonda,
gave her
bro.
up. I know, Shonda rhymes. Oh, I love her. Her shows are incredible. And so you're seeing Joe like process this with her mom and then going through this with this patient. So she's like extra on edge through all of this. And there's no dialogue in this moment. It's just like Teddy and Joe wheeling this woman down to surgery and just like nurses and women lining the walls. And it's just, I have like goosebumps everywhere. It's just so stunning visually. It's so empowering. It's so beautiful to see all these women come together to support another woman who's gone through a traumatic event that is like every woman's worst nightmare. Just pure goosebumps. It's so incredible. Like that is this moment where I'm like, that is what makes this show so great. Certain storylines, certain characters, I'm like, you have just gone off the rails, Grey's Anatomy. But then there are moments like this that I'm like, this is why this show like has lasted as long as it has, because it is like, so timely and beautiful, and
still in these later seasons she's still like writing moments like that. So it's like, oh, okay. My number 6 is from The Handmaid's Tale, season 2, episode 13, The Martha Network. Season 2 is like my favorite season of The Handmaid's Tale. I just think they completely nailed it. So basically, a little backstory. Emily killed a bunch. Wait, am I going to spoil this for you? Are you going to be sad?
It's fine. You can spoil it.
Emily killed a bunch of Gilead people, and she's going to like stand trial, and she has this new, what is it called, commander. And so that's what's going on with her. And then June just had a baby by her frickin' commander Fred. She's been plotting this entire season about how to escape Gilead. She's been like conspiring with her, the lady that's in charge, Serena, the commander's wife. Like they've been kind of working together to like advocate for women's rights because June was going to be having a daughter, and like Serena was like, oh, I kind of want my daughter to like be allowed to learn how to read. So she started to speak up and then like got her fucking finger chopped off, and so that just whole thing is going on. Basically all hope is essentially lost, and June is spending like some last moments with her child because she's in trouble for speaking out and like trying to escape. Suddenly there's a fire that starts across the street, and June's like, what the hell? And the Martha, who's like the cook and the housekeeper for the commander's family, Rita, she comes in and she's like, get your shit, get your shoes on, like let's go, you're getting out. And June's like, the fuck? And I was like, the fuck? And it gives me chills every time because the entire season we're watching June trying to like formulate this plan and escape. The whole time the Marthas, all of these housekeeper women, have been planning their own thing and are sacrificing themselves to get June out and to get this innocent child out. And then we find out that Emily's commander, her new commander, is like woke as hell and helps get her and June a ride out. And it's just so emotional. Like, I don't know how to describe the emotion I feel when I see oppressed people come together in this moment of like, fuck this, and hope, and putting their lives on the line for each other. Like, you get it in the Hunger Games, you get it in Harry Potter. Like, it's just the best moments. Oh, and then Serena, like, it's kind of a long scene, but Serena like sees June leaving with the baby, and this moment of strength with Serena, like all she's ever wanted is a baby. Like, she's in this motherfucking cult just to have a baby because she can't have a baby, and here she sees June like leaving with her baby, and she has the strength to like let her go, and it's just so powerful. And I cry every time. Serena sucks, but like this moment is lit. Yeah, at the end, June like gives Emily the baby and tells her to leave because June's other daughter Hannah is still in Gilead, and she's like, fuck this, I'm gonna stay, finish what I started. It's just wild. It's such a good time. But the Marthas and like how they did all that shit while we weren't paying attention, I'll never get over that.
I do need to get back on watching that show. I had like started rewatching it again, but I watched it in the morning before work back when we were still going into the office. So I would watch it at like 5:30 in the morning, and it always put me in such a down mood.
It's kind of a hard show to watch right now.
My number 5, I kind of cheated a little bit with this, but that's because these 3 moments are all really small, but they're all like really connected in Game of Thrones, and it's in season 7 when all of the Stark kids reunite. So Arya and Jon reuniting, Sansa and Jon reuniting, and Sansa and Arya reuniting. So I'm just lumping those all together because they are really small scenes, but it's just fuck Bran. I don't care about Bran's reunion with any of them. I couldn't care less about him. It's those 3 that I cared about. But we're talking about gratification. We are talking about siblings who we have not seen together since season 1 finally being reunited in season 7, and to see all of them have gone on such horrible, treacherous journeys on their own to then come back together in their home. Oh my god, it felt so earned for them and so earned as an audience to watch that, and you can see the pain and the change that they all see in each other. And they're kind of like, you've been through some stuff, you know? And they have so much to get caught up on. And all of their journeys have been absolutely insane. Jon fell in love, saw his love die in front of him, got killed by his own people, got resurrected. Sansa got married off to how many different people?
Right.
And then finally got back to her home. Arya was blinded for a hot second and learned how to become this badass assassin and be with the Hound and stuff. Like, just seeing all of them come together in their home again and get to reunite was just the coolest moment, I think, of season 7, and such like a small moment. I just wanted to see those character lines intersect again, and it just paid off. And I cry every time they all get reunited. It's so cute.
Yeah, Game of Thrones is, again, one of those shows where it's like you want, like the entire series, I wanted Tyrion and Daenerys to get together. Like, I was like, if they ever get together, like, that's gonna be the dopest shit. And when they finally did, I was like, holy mother of God. And then when Daenerys and Sansa, like, I wanted that to happen too.
I think that show did such a great job of holding off for so long that then it made the reunions so much sweeter, that I think it probably was tempting to bring these characters together earlier on, because they are just on completely separate storylines. So I'm sure at some point they were like, should we reunite them quick and have them get torn apart again? But the fact that they didn't, and that they kept them apart for basically the whole show, makes the reunion that much sweeter.
Okay, my number 5 is another Schitt's Creek one. So it's from season 5, episode 14, so a little later in the series. It's when Stevie sings Maybe This Time. So again, like I said, y'all, music, it does something to me. So Stevie's kind of like a side character. She's not one of the main characters, but she's kind of the one character who's been struggling and like not really finding a whole lot of growth. And she's playing Sally in Cabaret for like the local community theater or whatever that Moira's directing. All of the characters are doing big things and like growing and becoming better people and like achieving things in their lives. And Stevie's like, I'm so happy for all of you. Like, I love you all so much, but I wish I wasn't watching it from behind the desk, because she's like the motel manager or whatever, and she just like kind of watches them all. But you want her to win, and she kind of just like went through a breakup, and I don't know. She's insecure. She's never acted before, and Moira's like forcing her to be in this show, and she sings Maybe This Time, which is such a good song because it's about like losing all the time, and no one loves a loser, so nobody loves me. Such a good, but like David is there, and David is her best friend, and he's like tearing up because she's doing so good. And like at first Stevie starts the song like a little unsure and a little awkward, but she like really gets into it and realizes that this song is speaking her truth, and ends up just giving it her all. And all these characters who she's kind of like, who kind of disregard her in a way and kind of are like, yeah, you do just kind of watch from behind the desk, they all see her for like this powerful, awesome person. And David kind of sees her as like, I knew you could do this, like, you're amazing. So I don't know. It's just like one of those really sweet, dramatic, emotional moments in this show that a lot of people label as a comedy, which I agree with Daniel Levy. Like, it's not, it's a super hilarious show. It's fucking hilarious. But these moments are like real people going through shit. So I like that moment. It made me cry when I went back to watch it.
We want to cry. If
We
you
wanna
haven't picked
cry.
up on that yet, Katie and I want to be emotionally
I want to feel
distressed.
something. You gotta make me feel something.
Okay, speaking of being emotionally distraught, this was probably my most emotionally distraught moment as a young girly watching the show. And yes, it is from Pretty Little Liars. Y'all don't judge. I love this show. And it is in season 3, episode 12, and it's when Toby turns around and we see that he is A.
You just put me somewhere. I am traumatized. Okay.
Katie's getting upset now. And just as a little tack on, I'm also gonna tack on when Spencer, after she finds out and she goes to his apartment and she breaks down outside of his door. Troia Bellisario is the star of that show,
Yes.
and she saved that show single-handedly, and you cannot convince me otherwise. She as Spencer is incredible.
That performance
Anyways.
in that moment is like unmatched, and that was like
It
beyond ABC Family. Like,
Mm-hmm.
holy shit, yeah.
Going back to when we thought Toby was A, I don't remember anything shocking me as much as that moment did. I don't think I've ever been that shocked by a TV show in my life. It's the character that everyone loves and is like so pure and just sees like a puppy dog and the most adoring boyfriend, to then find out that he's been the one. I mean, obviously we find out that's not the case, but at the time, it was distressing.
Right.
I remember Twitter going absolutely insane. All of us girlies losing our minds. We were all so distraught. And Spencer and Toby were always my favorite couple. So to like have that betrayal, I felt betrayed by that. And it was one of the first giant plot twists of the show. The show had a lot to begin with. However, this moment was like the first big A reveal besides Mona, which if you had read the books, you knew that it was Mona. I didn't. So like that was shocking to me. But Toby was the first out of left field, and he was the trailblazer for it being like the people close to them turning around and it being them, because then in season 4 they were like, oh, it's Ezra, and then they like kind of did that a few times over, but Toby was the OG of that, and that plot twist was just incredible for the time. Then the spiral that it sent Spencer on, absolutely incredible. Again, she's like the only one who had the acting chops to handle that kind of performance. Again, in season 7 when they decided to throw the curveball at her that she's a British twin, she like somehow made that work. And her performance then breaking down outside of Toby's apartment, just being like, tell me that there's more to the story, that there's something that I don't know. Oh my god, it was so heart-wrenching, and that was a great season 3 is like one of the best seasons of that show. I would say it probably is the best season of that whole show.
I am fucking speechless. Like, literally, that love story, that relationship was everything I could have ever wanted. That reveal is network television at its finest. Network television directed at young people when social media is emerging. Like, there's no other vibe that I want to create more. That is, like, I remember how I felt in that moment.
Right?
Oh my
You can
God.
call it back. Every time I see that, I am like shot straight back to that moment in our childhood.
I'm so glad you had that in there.
I had to throw it in there. I'm in season 3 right now. I haven't gotten to that yet. I'm on like season 3 episode 7 or something right now, and I'm just waiting for it because I am just waiting to dive back into that moment.
I want to rewatch that show right now because right now is like the perfect time to rewatch it. My number 4 is Grey's Anatomy. It's The Goodbye Dance, season 10, episode 24. Oh, this is a hard one for me to talk about because when Christina Yang left Grey's Anatomy, the world would never be the same. Once they knew that Sandra Oh was leaving the show, like, they couldn't have gone about this in a better way, in my opinion. Like, I think this is one of, although I hate that Christina left the show and I think that the show went downhill, this is by far my favorite exit from the show because they didn't kill her off and everything was super believable. Like, she's the best doctor at this place, so for her to be moving on, I didn't like that she was going back to Burke because fuck that actor and fuck Burke. But
Burke.
Other than that, like, everything was believable. Everything kind of flowed, and I wasn't super mad about it. I never really liked her and Owen that much, so I didn't care that they were ending. But I just thought their goodbye worked, and this goodbye with Christina and Meredith, so delicate. Like, the love story, the central focus of this show is Christina and Meredith. I don't care what you say. And this relationship right here, very delicate situation, but I think they handled it well. We know that Meredith and Christina are both kind of emotionally stunted people that can't say a whole lot of words. And I don't want a whole lot of words in this moment. Like, just get out and let me cry. The dancing it out thing is how it's established in the show that that's how they, like, get out their emotions. This is the most emotional way for them to, like, say goodbye. And Christina leaves, and then she's like, fuck that, I'm coming back. And she's like, we dance it out, that's how we leave it. And where does the good go? What a good song. Perfect song for this moment. And then the reappearance of that later in the season, or later in the show, like much later in the show. They say the whole, like, you're my person thing, which is so cute, and I just cry every fucking time. Like, in my mind, it's the best on-screen relationship of all fucking time. Like, nothing beats this. When you talk about not needing dialogue to get things done, like, this relationship is exemplary of that. And her final thing, like, he's not the son, you are. Just get out. End the show. Just end the show right there. That's all you need.
Well, let's roll into Grey's Anatomy again because my number 3 is, I think if you ask any Grey's Anatomy fan, like, top 5 episodes, they're gonna say the shooting episodes.
Oh,
like,
my
burn in your mind.
God.
And it is when Bailey comforts Charles as he
Oh.
dies. Chandra Wilson's acting in this whole episode is awesome, but this moment specifically is so beautiful. Her moment of frustration when she knows she's, like, worked so hard. First of all, she's seen this man get shot.
Yep.
And she knows that the hospital is under attack, and she herself was threatened, and then she lied to get out of it, which super smart move on her part, but she has that, like, bit of guilt there. And then she works so hard to get Charles to these elevators. He's, like, a giant man, and she's super small. And then when she realizes that they turned the elevators off, and she knows she needs to get him down to an ER or an OR or he is going to die, and she has that moment of yelling and, like, pounding on the elevator buttons, and then the chasing cars start. Wait, no, it's that Andrew Bell song. Is it In My Veins that starts playing? One of Andrew Bell's songs starts playing in the background. Love Andrew Bell. Please come back to music, buddy. I miss you. That moment when she just, like, pauses after freaking out at the elevator and she turns around and she sees him and they make eye contact and, like, they kind of have a moment of understanding between the two of them, and she takes off her gloves and she goes and sits down and just, like, holds his head. And he's like, I'm dying. And she's like, you are, but I don't want you to be scared because I'm with you. And he starts to, like, cry a bit, and she is crying. And Mandy Moore, I don't know what her character's name is, but she's crying in this.
I forgot about that. She's there too. Oh my God.
And the three of them just have a moment. So Bailey's acting from going from, like, freaking out to then, like, that resolution to then, like, that comforting, mothering, nurturing role that she takes on with, like, the interns and everyone that she, like, loves. It's just, so on point. And her tears and Charles' admittance of being scared to die, and Bailey being like, I'm here right with you, and he's like, you were my favorite even though you didn't like me, and I just wanted you to know. And she's like, please tell, and he asks her to please tell Reed that he loved her. And it's just a moment too of just being like, life is so short, and, like, you don't know when you're gonna have an opportunity, so, like, let the people know that you love them when you have the chance to. And it's so emotional. I feel like I kind of just, like, spewed all that out, but it really is just such a powerful and sad moment, and I just cry and cry and cry every time.
All of your scenes are just, like, really putting me somewhere. Like,
can you tell I'm in a mood?
Holy shit. No, they're, like, such good scenes, but another Handmaid's Tale one, y'all, and another season 2. It's episode 7, so it's earlier in the season, but this gives me goddamn chills. Kind of a small, understated moment. The Maids' Names is the name of the scene. So basically, Emily and Janine, which are 2 handmaids that have kind of been with June since the beginning. Emily is June's like side person that she walks with everywhere, and Janine was with June like when they first got brought to being like trained as handmaids. So both of them got shipped to the colonies because they like did something bad. I kind of forget, but the colonies is basically like the place where people are going to like shovel and get rid of toxic waste, and it's like a death sentence. Like you go there and you get cancer and you slowly like waste away. But they get brought back because there's like a shortage of handmaids and they like need them for their fucking uterus. And Emily is traumatized, obviously. Alexis Bledel breaks my heart every goddamn, like, I don't know what it is about that woman, but she just makes me feel some type of way. Like, I cry every time she speaks. I don't know what it is. She just seems like a genuine, gentle soul. But her performance just makes me cry. She portrays this character who has been through so much and who is nearly broken, but not quite. Like, she still has this little fire in her, but she's lost a lot of herself. But she still just is able to exude so much strength. And June goes up to her and finally gets to tell Emily her real name. So before they were separated, Emily told June that her real name was Emily, and June never got to be like, I'm June. And so she like goes up to her. She's like, hi, Emily. And Emily is like doesn't know what to say. And she's like, I'm June. It's just the best moment
I just
ever.
got chills there, and I don't even really know the scene.
Oh my God, it's so good. And Gilead has like created this mistrust amongst all the oppressed people, like the handmaids, the Marthas, anybody who's like working under them, because you don't know who's going to be a snitch, who actually believes in what Gilead is preaching, because everybody's just like under his eye. So nobody knows who they can trust. So no one opens up to each other, and camaraderie is like not allowed at all. But in this moment, all the handmaids start telling each other their real names. And it's like finally this moment where they're all like, we all hate this. This is, all of us agree that this is fucked, and like no one likes this, obviously. But they finally have the courage to speak up and be like, I'm Joanna, I'm blah blah blah, you know? And it gives me chills every time. And June kind of sees like, oh, like we could have an uprising, like we all hate this, we all want to get out of this. And again, it's just like that unity amidst oppression that gives me chills every time.
You really make me want to go back and watch this show.
You should.
Like, you're
Season
really
2
selling me on it.
especially.
My number 2 scene is one that Katie already talked about, and that
Sorry.
is Game of Thrones, when Dany takes ownership of the Unsullied, or she frees them, but basically, like, they decide to join her. I agree with everything that Katie said when she talked about the scene. It's such a badass moment for Daenerys, and one of her many throughout the show, and I just think it shows off her intelligence and her ability to be a leader, but also her good heart. And she's savvy. She is politically savvy.
Yep.
And she's powerful. And to see her from going, I think like Dany's character journey that we go on throughout the show is one of the greatest. I mean, last season, we're going to call that into question.
Yeah.
But otherwise, her progression from the whole show of the first time we meet her, she's getting sold off into marriage from her brother to this like warrior dude. I mean, obviously I know it's the Dothraki, but like he's basically like this giant warrior dude. She doesn't speak their language. She doesn't know anything about them. She's raped her first night that she's married with him. To see her go from that to then bargain away one of her dragons, when you're like, what are you doing? Ser Jorah is like, what are you doing? And Missandei is even like, oh, this dude sucks, like don't do this. To then be like, Dracarys.
Yeah.
Burn that dude to the ground, take the Unsullied, they're gonna march with her, and the introduction, like you said, of Missandei and Grey Worm.
Yeah.
2 of the best characters on that show, and it's just such a powerful moment. Again, I think women around the world were like cheering on. Everyone was cheering for Dany, but like it was just so awesome to see her so empowered in that moment.
See, that's the thing. Like, you literally have the entire world cheering for this character. Out of anyone else in the damn show, besides maybe Arya, we want this girl to be sitting on the damn throne. What in your brain is like, let's kill her? Let's make her go fucking crazy and be a horrible person, and then let's kill her.
I think they backed themselves into a corner with Jon and her. because I
John
don't know why
ruined
it came as
everything.
a shock that I don't know why everyone was so surprised that she died. I mean, I was shocked that she died, but before season 8 started, I was like, John or Danny is dying in this season. They are both not making it out alive. And I think like they went for the more shock value of it and killed Danny. I think with John having already had that like fake death in, was that season 5 maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think they backed themselves into a corner with John and Danny together, knowing that they both couldn't make it out.
Yeah, and I kind of had that too, like, once I realized, like, oh, it's one or the other. And I appreciated the shock of finding out that John was a Targaryen, but, like, I would much rather get rid of that shock than, like, have her die, you know? Like, if I had to trade.
Loved John. I know Katie doesn't like John, so we'll have to get into that a lot more doing like our Game of Thrones rewatches. Because I want to get to like the root of your dislike.
So do
of
I.
John.
I want to know why.
So I liked John as a character. However, if you're gonna kill one of the two of them, I would have rather had you kill John. I think I would have rather had you kill almost anyone else except for Danny. I mean, probably with the exception of like Sansa and Arya. And I did not want my girl Missandei to die either.
Well, my number 2 is Game of Thrones. So this scene is when Arya kills the Night King.
I knew you were going to put this one in. I left it off my list. I put it in my honorable mentions because I'm like, I think Katie's going to have this. How could you not?
Right.
How could you not?
Yeah, so season 8, episode 3. Let me, like, collect myself for this. So immediately after watching this episode, I went back and rewatched this scene several times. I never do that. Like, that's how good this scene is. When we're talking about payoff, this is like arguably the most like people don't talk about this enough. Even people talk about this a lot, but like they're not talking about it enough. This is an entire show's build up to this moment. Everything that has ever happened to Arya, everything she's ever done, everything she's ever gone through has led to this moment of her deciding to drop the knife and stab this motherfucker in the stomach. Like, and it's the smallest action, but just like I'm getting chills just think like everything with this character has led to her knowing to do that. It is the most satisfying thing in the entire world. No other character could have killed the Night King and had it be this satisfying and this good and have it make this much sense. The slowest build ever with the best payoff. I love an all hope is lost moment. Okay, I like how we get all the characters kind of facing death. They're ready to go. Bran, who cares, but he's ready to die. Jon's ready to die. Ser Jorah, I mean, he's like up. He's on his last legs, but he's like, I'm gonna die for my queen, like protecting her no matter what. Like everyone is just, all right, we're done. And me as a viewer, I'd forgotten about Arya. I was like, shit, like they're done.
Such a good job of that, hiding her in the chaos.
Yep. And also another understated thing, but the Red Woman. I know she's a horrible character, but her entire character has been for this moment too. Her saving Arya, and then that moment's just kind of like forgotten about or whatever because there's so much other chaos going on, like Michaela said. And to see her coming out and this brief moment of hope, like, yes! And then he turns around and grabs her by the neck. It's like, fuck. Don't crush me by having Arya be the first one to die and then all these other people die. It's just such a strong moment. And her just knowing to drop the knife and kill, like, how are these the same writers who wrote this moment, who then decided to do what they went on to do the next couple episodes? Extreme patience. That is so beyond worth it for this great payoff.
That episode, I recently went back and watched that episode. I'll go back and rewatch that one in Battle of the Bastards pretty frequently.
Yeah, you do.
Because those two are just, I think, absolutely incredible episodes. But this is literally a whole movie in one TV episode. This episode is just out of its mind insane to me. It is so well done. I think at the time a lot of people expected more people to die, so they were kind of like let down by that. Like Katie said, the absolute chaos, the moment where all hope is lost. You see Jon literally about to die. You see Brienne and Jaime fighting back to back, about to die. You see Sam about to die. You see Sansa and Tyrion like down in the crypt about to die. Like every single character that you care about is literally seconds from death. Like we said, Bran, who cares?
Yeah, right. but he is like
Arya coming in that moment is so insane. And I remember watching this live, I say, but like I was watching it in live time this season and seeing that and being like, oh my god, and then jumping on Twitter and everyone is going insane, and it's just, oh, I miss having a show like that where it is just so incredibly well done and the whole world is like invested in it.
Yeah. All right. Honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. Well, that was one of them, so
Okay.
knock that out of the way. I'll throw out my other Game of Thrones. I'm gonna do these rapid fire because I have quite a few that I realized when I was making this. Sansa's final remarks to Ramsay when then she lets his dogs eat him alive.
Yep.
Got her fucking revenge. Thank you. The purple and the red wedding is someone who wasn't spoiled. I was shooketh in both of those, especially the purple wedding. That, like, I did not think Joffrey was going anywhere, so that, like, really came out of nowhere for me. Grey's Anatomy, when Mark comforts Lexi as she dies. Kill me, gets me every time. They were my favorite couple on that show, and they were my favorite couple that will ever be on that show. Everybody Loves Raymond, when Frank and Marie tried to return their toaster. That sounds weird, I promise it's hilarious. And when Ray gets into a fight with Peggy about Girl Scout cookies and she beats him up. Again, random but great. In Girls, when Hannah cuts off all of her hair and like a bit of a mental episode fit, and Adam comes running through the city to her apartment to be with her, and that moment is just so cute and pure in their relationship. And then lastly, some Euphoria ones real quick, when Rue and Jules at the end of the season, when they're going to hop on the train and run away together, and you see Rue starting to have a panic attack, literally almost gives me one every time I watch it. And then the party scene in the first episode when Rue's narrating why she started doing drugs, and it's like her face when she's spaced out and it's flashing different colored lights, and she's like kind of explaining about like the feeling that she gets when she's on drugs. It just makes you realize, like, it gets you more in the mind of an addict and being like, she's not doing this just to be like woohoo party, like it is truly like her escape.
Right.
And then lastly, when Cassie gets her abortion in the last episode, and it's a montage of her at the clinic, and then the Arcade Fire song My Body's a Cage is playing, and then she's ice skating. Like, that whole montage there is just so powerful. Again, like how Katie's talked about how the music makes a scene, that song there like just fits so perfectly with the montage, and it's really well done.
Okay, mine, I have another one from Handmaid's Tale when Moira and Luke reunite. So Moira is like June's friend from before all of this, and she ends up escaping. Luke is there to greet her in Canada. Luke is June's husband, and the two of them never really got along, Moira and Luke, but Luke is there to like greet her. The explosion scene at the end of season 6 of Game of Thrones.
Queen Marjorie. Oh, I miss you. I miss
She's
you,
like,
bitch.
we need to go. And then frickin' Tommen jumping off the thing.
That shocked me. Actually, talk about shocking not Grey's Anatomy. Talk about shocking Game of Thrones moments. It's such a small, like, very tamed down, but it was not a big moment at all. It was just very simple, just like boop.
And it's so wild because it's like, there goes her last kid. And then a bunch from Glee. So when Kurt goes to New York, Rachel is like in a month or so into college, and she's like been talking about like how great it is, but she's been lying, and she calls Kurt and she's like, my dance teacher hates me and my roommate is like sleeping with the whole school and blah blah blah, and he's on the phone like, maybe you should get a new roommate, and she's like, yeah, and he's like, turn around and he's there, and like they're it's just such a sweet moment. Tongue Tied, I'm gonna do a bunch of songs in Glee, so Tongue Tied after they win nationals and the whole school is celebrating them for the first time ever. Roots Before Branches, I will cry every time. It's when Finn and Rachel are like on their way to their wedding, but he's dropping her off at the train station and like, go to New York, like, we're not getting married, I'm letting you go, blah blah blah. And it's like the last time they're together for real before he fucking dies, and it gets me every time. Bohemian Rhapsody, somebody like, so Quinn has a baby to that song, like it's like intercut, it's just wild, but it's such a good time. All right, that's enough of Glee. Schitt's Creek, when David sings to Patrick, when Patrick sings to David, cute moments. The end of the first episode of Pretty Little Liars.
They're all
You
saying
can't
outside the
turn
funeral.
back the hands of time. Like, no, you can't. No, you cannot. The first text they all get from A. Or wait, it's like the first time they all get one.
The first collective, like, group text, yeah. And when they all realize, like, oh shit.
That iconic flip phone and them all just like dramatically looking at each other in their funeral garb. And the fall leaves, like, again, the vibes are immaculate.
The fashion, the music,
The
the
fashion,
phones,
the
everything.
phones. Oh my god. Two from Game of Thrones that I just thought of. Sansa and Tyrion's moment when they're like hiding and like they were married and they like hold hands and
And when she tells him that you were the best of them and he's like,
Yeah.
oh, yikes.
yeah.
It's just
And then Arya and Sansa when they kill Peter Baelish will forever live on.
How did we forget about that?
Sansa's gonna be a bitch and kill Arya. And how do you plead, Lord Baelish?
They will forever, I think, be my favorite on-screen sibling duo, honestly. Like, I forgot about that moment. Peter
love,
Baelish
like-
thinks he's hot shit. Little does he know.
I love how they're two completely different women, but so
Mhm.
equally strong. All right, your number one.
Okay, my number one is from Euphoria. Shocker, shocker, people. No one's surprised, I don't think. And this scene, I feel like it's obvious, but it really is obvious because it is just like the best. This is what won Zendaya her fucking Emmy. And it is when Rue begs Fez to sell her drugs and
my
he
God.
refuses and she breaks down. This scene, I believe it's in the second or third episode. Sorry, I didn't look it up.
That's fine.
But oh my good God. That pounding on the door, the switch from like appealing to him and just being like, hey man, I just need you to sell me like a couple, I forget what drugs she says, sorry, I'm not versed in drugs. And she's like, I just need you to sell me like a couple something and we're good. And he's like, no, I can't do that to you. I can't keep watching you destroy your life. And she's like, come on, you know, we're friends. Like, you can do this. And then when he's like, no, Rue, and like closes the door on her, and then she's like, fuck you, Fez, fuck you, and starts pounding on the door and is like, you ruined my life. So then she tries to like she tries to appeal to him and like guilt him into then giving her drugs and like getting really angry at him, thinking that will get him to change his mind. And then obviously that doesn't work, so then she resorts to crying. But like I think she starts out as that, like, of maybe being like, come on, Fez, but then really just dives into being like, this is my fucking life and like what have I come to. And that transition, that like wave of emotions that she goes through is just so seamless and beautiful. That entire scene is so heartbreaking and raw and real. And I think this whole show pushes Zendaya a lot, but I think this scene by far is one of her strongest. I think it really emphasizes and shows the struggle of an addict in such a way that you can't help but empathize with Rue and like understand where she's coming from. And I don't know if that's one of Sam Levinson's goals with the show. I know he has struggled with addiction in his life, and like I know he's told a lot of his stories through Rue. So I don't know if he's necessarily trying to get us to like empathize with addicts. However, you can't help but watch it and not feel that way towards Rue and just like want the best for her and want her to get her life back on track and really see like the emotional side to an addict and like how they have come to be the way that they are. It's just such an incredible scene. And poor Fez then.
Yeah.
I love when you see Rue on one side of the door banging on it and then you turn and you see Fez on the inside just like leaning back against the door, just listening to Rue rip him apart. And you know that it's hurting him too, but he's doing it for the right reasons. And he's like, Rue, I'm really trying to help you out here. And then later on they do have their little moment where she apologizes and they make up. And
his emotional performance adds so much to the scene too. Like,
I love
because
Fez.
I mean, I don't know if you could say like he's dealing drugs for the right reasons, but like he's a nice drug dealer. Like he's just trying to, you know,
he's trying to
provide
support
for
his
his
grandma
family.
and make his
Yeah.
rent.
How it's eating him up inside too adds so much, and I 100% agree that's what won her the Emmy for sure. That in combination with all of her other great scenes and performances, but
yeah. I mean, really, I could have done like a top 10 Euphoria scenes list because Katie, you had some, I had some of my honorable mentions. We're not even talking about the musical number at the end of the finale. Like, this show just has so many great moments, and it's so well done.
All right, my
Your
number one. We've talked about this scene before. I don't know if y'all remember, but it's from Orange is the New Black, season 4 finale. I don't think, again, I feel like this show doesn't get enough hype. Like, I know it's been off air for a while now, but I wish that more people were talking about it right now, just like with the whole Black Lives Matter movement and everything, and how we're talking more about the prison industrial complex in this country. And if you're looking for a new show to watch, and if you haven't watched Orange is the New Black, like, it's a really timely show to watch right now. it's not a huge downer. Like, there's definitely funny moments, but then it also tackles these like topics of police brutality and injustice that happens in the prison system to these people who have nobody fighting for them and nobody to like bring them justice. So the moment I'm talking about, the scene I'm talking about, is when Caputo, the warden, Pusey has been murdered by one of the prison guards. Caputo says on TV, like in a press conference, he says the officer that killed Pusey is a victim and that the women were out of control when all they were doing was like standing up on the tables and like protesting for better conditions. Tasty is like his assistant, so she overhears all of it and gets super angry because Pusey was her best friend. She like gets up and leaves and starts telling all the other prisoners like he didn't even say her name and all this stuff. Also that he's not going to fire the officer, like they're not even going to fire him. So he's on paid leave, like just complete fuck shit. Pusey's friends are like leading this, like there's no justice, fuck this. And then in prison, the kind of like going stereotype of how prisons work, I guess, is like white people are separate, like in their own group, Latinas are separated and like black people are separated. But everyone is like, something's going down, like, let's go. So they all kind of come together. Daya is a character who was like really prominent in the first season. She had a relationship with one of the prison guards and he got her pregnant. But in this season, she's kind of faded into the background. Like, we don't get her as much. She's just kind of like going through some shit. Basically, amongst all the chaos, one of the prison guards like pulls a gun, but one of the girls like pushes him and the gun falls and Daya is the one to pick up the gun. It's like, what the fuck, like Daya out of nowhere. And then everyone's like, what are you gonna do? And it's just kind of this moment of like, is Daya gonna give him the gun back or like what's gonna happen? And she's like, all you COs, you're all fucking pieces of shit because the father of her child like just up and left and like it's some bullshit. Yeah, so she's just like, fuck this, and like points the gun and it's like, hell yeah. And the song Muddy Waters plays. Perfect song for this moment. And we close out on Daya, so like we leave the season on a cliffhanger. We close out of Daya and we come upon Pusey, who we saw like earlier. I can't remember if it was earlier in this episode or the episode before, but basically like after Pusey died in the show, then we got an episode showing her like one of her last nights of freedom, like before she got taken to jail. So it was like kind of her perfect day. So we close out of Daya and like go back to that, like her standing by a river, and like it's literally the most powerful moment. I've rewatched it so many times. I've made Michaela watch it because it's perfect television for me, and it's like this topic and this covering this topic, you couldn't have done it better in my opinion. They could have shown a slow motion of like Pusey dying, or they could have shown her in like prison garb or something, but like they showed her free. They showed her humanity. And she looks like dead into the camera, which rarely happens in movies or television, but like she looks directly into the camera, like smiling, and it goes black. And it's just like the most emotional thing ever because it's like this happens all the time. Like this is just one fictional instance that's being told, but in that moment where Pusey like looks into the camera at you, like, what the fuck are you gonna do about this? Like, I've never felt, I mean, I feel a lot like I want to burn this motherfucker to the ground because there is no justice, but like rewatching that episode, I'm always just like, I will fight to the death for this fictional character because I know she's not fictional. Like, this happens all the time. So we did the damn thing.
We did it.
I have to pee so bad, just like I always do at the end of every episode, and I haven't eaten dinner, and it's 8 p.m., so.
All right, everyone. Next week, what do we have next week for you guys? We're going to be talking about our comfort movies. I'm so excited for this episode. I know Katie is too.
Yeah.
That's going to be a fun one. Because, you know, everyone has those movies that they just turn on and they just know they feel safe. They feel comfortable.
Yes.
And it brings them a sense of peace. So Katie and I are going to be talking all about comfort movies, why everyone has them, what makes a perfect comfort movie for us.
Check out all the links in our description for causes and important things going on in the world. Obviously, when this episode comes out, it's going to be maybe possibly a scary time in the world. So we're thinking about all of you and just hoping that everybody is staying safe and keep your wits about you. Like, It's probably going to be bad, but we'll get through it. Yeah, be sure to follow us on all of our social medias. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We post new episodes on there every Monday with a visual exclusive pre-show and new videos every Friday. All right, y'all. Peace and blessings. We love you. Lilas.
Lilas.
Cute.